on today's Minute of the Apes, sometimes I have terrible bouts of insomnia, and they typically hit Sunday evening right before the week work starts. And it's one of those things where we all go to bed. It's midnight. I'm wide awake, sitting up, staring at an empty, dark room. The dogs are snoring. Chris is snoring. But something is kind of sweet around that 3 or 4 o'clock range when everything just cools down. I can finally fall asleep. And then right as the sun comes up, I'm like, man, I'm going to murder that sun.
Take your sticking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Because of the divine bomb.
The only good human is a dead human! There is fire, there is smoke.
The minute of the apes. 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 Yay!
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. And I am left looking at Richard again, wondering where the hell that was going.
No,
but
he doesn't have any kids. I mean, where do these dad jokes come from?
I know, but the thing is, did you spend the week off practicing all these?
No.
That was well
Storing them out.
constructed.
That was just this
He's
morning.
been workshopping them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, everybody,
Took him
sit
on the
down.
road.
How about this?
I got a tight 5 minutes here. Let's go.
Well, no offense to Sean's poopy pee teases.
I'm not the first one to bring it up this week. You are now.
No, I didn't say first. I'm just saying that your tendency toward that. Richard does tease better than anybody, and yay for Chris for that fact. So here we are, minute 82. Does anyone have anything else we need to discuss before we start talking trees and apes? Mm-hmm. All right, Sean, tell us what's going on, minute 82.
All right, we start minute 82 with Aldo still climbing and ends with Caesar repeating, "You murdered my son."
All right, here it comes. Minute 82, Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Murdered my son. You murdered my son. You murdered.
As of minute 82, we have a surprisingly alive village worth of apes and humans, plus a much smaller ghost city worth of radioactive people.
Visually, we get shots cutting between Aldo climbing the tree, Caesar following up. Then we begin to see on the ground the rest of the ape and human community watching, very oddly just sort of gazing upwards. But they climb until finally we get the moment of "you killed my son" when they come to one very long extended branch, and then we end on a shot of Lisa.
But you did notice "you murdered my son" was down on the ground.
Yeah. The shot of him saying that, you could see the group of people around him.
Yeah, he's down on the ground
yeah.
where actually he's supposed to be up in the tree.
The tree chasing him, yeah. Although, I know it's the very end of the minute, but I just wanted Mel Gibson to pop up, "Give me back my son!" Have you never seen that?
Which one is that?
It's from Kidnapped, I think. No, Ransom is the name of the movie.
No,
and
I've
he
never
goes,
seen that
he
one.
does this. He just goes, unmute. I just wanted that to come up all of a sudden. "Give me back my son!"
So we get a lot of music building. It kind of oddly changes away from the rhythmic nature that was built upon the "Ape Shall Not Kill Ape." Dum, dum, dum. Mm-hmm. Now it's boom, 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 boom. And it's just this repetitive thing, but it builds some tension as we go up. There's some good handheld camera work in this too that kind of again makes us be
Feel
in the
like
tree
the
with
audience,
them.
yeah.
I was going to say I was to your point last minute about
Are
these
they
actors
actors
in
up
the
in
tree
the trees?
themselves. I'm sure they had to do a couple of shots of them so they can kind of show them on the limbs themselves, but I doubt it's them. I mean, this is pretty risky to have your actors in this amount of makeup and prosthetics walking a tree. Then this is a perfect tree. Like, this tree is perfect for this kind of
It's a beautiful
scene
tree.
for climbing. I'm sure they scouted that entire premise. Like, that's the tree right there. We can climb it. And I'm sure, since we're not getting any crazy wides, some of these branches might be a little bit lower than they appear.
Oh yeah. I mean, the branch can be just high enough that the camera can
shoot
get
up
under
into
it,
the sky,
so
yeah.
he can only be a couple feet off the ground. Yeah.
But I do think that it is stunt walking around. But I could be wrong. It's probably in a book somewhere.
Well, no, I think you're right, Richard, because I think that the shot that begins roughly about 8 seconds when Aldo is scampering up the tree in his weird gaucho pants and slippers, that's most certainly not Clyde. I mean, you're not seeing any face, you're not seeing enough to define it, and why put him up in that situation, to Sean's point?
Right. We're seeing the backside of Aldo, and then we... you're right, because then we cut to a shot of him looking around, which could have easily been shot on the ground because the background is now green again as opposed to blue sky.
But at 50 seconds, when they're both on the tree, with that one shot of Aldo kind of backing up from him, I think that's actually them there shooting it, and the branch might just be 5 feet above the ground or so.
Yeah, I can see that because it definitely looks like Roddy, the way that he works things. So I would not be surprised were that the case. And you're right. It is always that weird thing that you can once you begin to tell people somebody's up in a tree, if you intercut that moment when really they're only 3 feet off the ground, you just put it together in your head that we're further up in that tree.
You show a helicopter flying in the air, but then you cut and show people sitting on the side of it. That's shot on the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I think that it might be 2 trees.
Oh, 2 different trees?
2 different trees, because we see a shot of them going, the stunts going up kind of a 45-degree angle branch, and then we now cut to them on a completely level branch where we can see the 2 actors. So I think it's probably 2 different trees, but it's outside of the jarring moment where Roddy's back on the ground again. It's relatively well done.
I will tell you, too, if you go from the shot that's I'm looking at a still at 47 seconds, and it's the very wide shot of the tree, the 2 of them up in it. Look to the right of where Aldo is, and it's got that one branch at the bottom that comes out almost like an elbow, goes up, and then across it. Now flip to your next shot, and it's a 3-branch situation again. It looks incredibly similar except bigger.
Right.
And they did a great job of putting this together and saying, hey, if we did that and this, if that's intentional, it's fantastic. It's obviously not the same because, again, now what Aldo's standing on is, about 7 feet long compared to over in that other shot. Even if it's the camera angle that's making it look shorter, is nowhere near 7 feet, but it still has that crook.
Right.
So they did a good job of assembling it, and I like all this scampering up there. It is the classic example of Stephen King saying put people up a tree.
Throw rocks at him.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of scenes where Aldo's tied on him, and you see him shaking his head left and back and forth. That looks like it was probably done on the ground somewhere, or a repeating scene from earlier where he's shaking his head just to make it look like he's.
Well, I mean, a good example of that is at 52, where he's looking and he's incredibly well underlit. I mean, the scene is obviously during the day, so the light should be coming. They to your point, they put him in front of trees, maybe put him on an apple crate or something so they could extend him up a little bit. But yeah, they assembled this. It's hacking and whacking the truth. But the one thing that bothers me throughout it, the apes on the bottom seem entirely too passive for me. I almost wish they were still chanting.
Chanting, or in the new films, and this is not a spoiler or anything, they would be more active participants in chasing him up the tree.
Right.
They would be surrounding, climbing other
I agree.
branches so that they could be goading them on as well. Yeah.
It's just something that, let's say that this is a ritual that is, take it away that Cornelius fell from a tree. Let's say maybe this is some ritual that they follow. You battle in trees.
Technically, Aldo didn't kill him. The sudden stop killed him. It's not Aldo's fault. It's physics.
So you're going to say
physics.
it's not the gun's fault, is what we're
It's a
getting
bullet's
into.
fault, yeah.
Okay.
There's not even really, when you look at the gorillas on the ground, they're not even looking up towards the action.
I
high
think
it
that's
should
what
be,
bothers me. I feel like they should be more active participants, whether they're looking or chanting or throwing rocks to make them go further. It's a little too blah.
I would have liked something from Lisa, maybe saying Caesar no, or something along those lines to plead with him.
Agreed.
That would connect the ground around to what's happening up on the tree.
Right.
Pleading, not necessarily pleading to stop Caesar, just some type of audio cue that they're actually still there.
It's weird. I also had in my notes, is this part of the ape shall not kill ape? You got to chase a motherfucker up a tree.
Maybe.
But the thing is, if ape has never killed ape before, why have they developed a ritual for when one does?
Well,
they should say, this is unprecedented.
Okay.
This has never happened before. What do we do?
Maybe the ritual is this. Maybe they run up trees, and whichever one goes the highest is the one that's almost like giving up and going, "Okay, I'm sorry, back off."
So
man.
your sense is that this was kind of a ritual thing now, that this is
I
how
don't know.
apes-
I threw that out.
That's
I
what
was
Ape
like,
Todd
apes
said.
fight confrontation by climbing up trees and
They revert to their baser natures.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
never know. I'm just trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out why everybody's just standing by and not doing anything.
Yeah.
It seems like they should all be pissed too. If ape does not kill ape, this should be a society that is incensed. Especially not just that you killed an ape, but you killed a child.
You killed our king's son.
The prince.
Yeah. The regicide, potentially.
I mean, you wouldn't have gotten, if they're going off the script, you wouldn't have really gotten much more than what you see here. I had mentioned that there was like a small kind of scuffle a little bit beforehand. What was supposed to happen is that he says, "You murdered my son," with that realization. And then Aldo watches Caesar warily, no longer the great leader, but an animal at bay. As we watch, he begins to back away. Caesar is obviously trying to get close enough to spring on Aldo. He is unarmed, but thinking of nothing of that. Caesar is supposed to have moments of stalking his son's murderer around.
It's okay.
Aldo is supposed to reach for a sword or bayonet, the same weapon with which he chopped away the branch that Cornelius was hanging on. He draws the sword and swings it, ready for Caesar. He does not pause, but moves faster to close the distance with the son's murderer. Eyes of Lisa's full of anguish, her hands clasped almost in an attitude of prayer. MacDonald and Jake wrench loose a length of chain, which is entwined in the coral fence. MacDonald wraps it up into a ball and throws it. Caesar sees the chain sailing through the air, leaps for it, and catches it. Aldo breaks and run now, pushing his way through the guerrillas, heading for the trees. And then we go to the trees.
But see, that's so much more. They're engaged. They're doing something. They're participants.
Yeah, I mean, the humans aren't even part of this anymore
No.
as far as the movie's concerned. I mean, I can see why they didn't do that, because that is a lot of jumping in trees and catching stuff and swinging around that potentially they could not do. So they said, shit, all right, just climb the tree.
But there's some action staging that I think
Yeah.
they probably feel like they didn't have time to kind of get.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that dissuaded them from this. But come on, you've done shots of Claude on the ground, simulated he's in a tree. You can toss something and have
and have somebody just jumping in the air and catching it and
Yeah.
then landing on a branch in
Yeah.
another shot. Yeah.
You can fake that shit so easily.
And they may have filmed some of this. Who knows? Because we do have the shots of Lisa's anguish through her eyes. We do have "You Murdered My Son," which takes place on the ground before the tree scene. But in actuality, they edit it to be during the tree scene.
Right.
So they may have, and they have the flashes of Aldo looking back and forth in a panic. They may have filmed a little bit of that, and maybe just ultimately decided it was just too clunky, because it sounds a little clunky, really.
Yeah.
Some of it would have been good. Anything with the interaction to where they're not just blank faced.
Him running through apes to get away,
Maybe.
might
Yeah.
have put some of that together.
Yeah. It's still a great scene. I still love the tension of this building. It's just those insert shots of the people on the ground that's kind of like, what?
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
There's no urgency in it.
That's exactly it. The urgency's lacking. All right. Well, there is no urgency lacking in the fact that I'm going to take us to an end, and we'll be back tomorrow with another minute. And until then, everyone have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
The minute of the apes. The minute